Let's go, everybody. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the LA Poker Roundup. It is August 20th, 2024, and this is episode 51. Man, we have got a very special guest with us tonight. We have the man with two banners, the very first and only person who can say that about the bike. We've got Marc Fiorentino with
Unbelievable.
us on the show.
Two
uh,
banners, buddy. That is unbelievable. I don't have one. I don't know if I'm ever gonna get one, but that's incredible, buddy. Congratulations.
Thank you, guys. It's
yeah,
just a lot of run good at the right time. But
yeah.
thank you.
Oh, so we'll get to that in a minute. So, Derek, with that kind of attitude, you're definitely not going to get any kind of banner up there. We might need to go into the past and give yourself a pep talk. All right. But before we jump into that interview, let's hit up the winners from the week. We don't have a lot of topics for you this week. We want to spend some time with Marc, so we can jump right into who was doing really well this weekend, other than our man Marc here. So. Let me pop right over to the bike blog, and we will see there was a super stack happening on Sunday, and the winner is a very familiar face, Mr. Aaron Zhang, Mr. Zilong Zhang, and it looks like there was no chop. So man, way to go! So the Sunday
Wow.
event had 491 players come out. I didn't even notice, and honestly. That thing started at 11 on our day two. Like, whew, what a turnout! This is great.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. They didn't chop.
Yeah,
I
well,
would imagine that the structure was probably super bad at the final table.
just looking at the payouts, it doesn't look like they chopped. So, congratulations to Aaron Zhang, first place for 24 grand. Second place, Zihao Shu for 15,000. Third place, Alexander Otasevic for 11 grand. Fourth place, Jesus Acereto for 8,000. Fifth place, Alvin Yu for 6,000. Sixth place, Kenny Lei for 4.5. Seventh place, Yong Song for 3.5. Eighth place, Daniel Gobriel for 2.7 thousand. And ninth place, Ricardo Najera, rounding out the final table there for just over 2,000. So congratulations to that final table.
Yeah,
Uh,
congrats, guys. It's always nice to see, a bunch of unfamiliar names kind of getting good scores. So yeah, it's great.
Yeah, alongside of a very familiar name getting first place. And then
Yeah.
also, we have results on the vlog there from, it looks like Monday had a mega stack with 87 players. Another very familiar face taking first place here, Mr. David Rosenblum. I believe, does he have his name on the wall? Does he have a banner? Mr. Rosenblum got first place in this mega stack for little over 4,000. Congratulations. Second place was Jessica Castle, 3,003. Jessica Castle, this sounds like the name of that Australian player who was here for the World Series, but it can't be. But anyways, congratulations, second place. Third place, Kevin Tang for 2.9. Fourth place, David Sung for 2.8. Fifth place, Britton Purvis, 1.9. Reg, really nice guy, play with him all the time. Sixth place, Douglas Spriggs, 1.6. Seventh place, Ross Villanueva for 770. Eighth place, Stephen King for 615. And ninth place, rounding out the final table, Johnny Bromberg. He used to be around here a lot more. He's a Florida guy. And in fact, last year, I believe he won one of the really big $600 buy-in events down at one of the Sherpo things. So he's in town for the Mega Millions, I'm sure. So it looks like the final six chopped it up. Yep, final six chopped it up. So congrats again to all them, and congrats to David Rosenblum.
Yeah, congrats. I definitely put in a decent amount of hours with David across a whole bunch of different tournaments. Really, really good. Tough,
Abs-
tough, tricky player.
Absolutely. And then one last. Let's jump over the gardens before we hit the big event for the weekend and we get into the meat of the week. So, Kevin, tournament director extraordinaire, the only person who gives us daily results on the regular, he has a recap of the weeklies down at the gardens. So, on Wednesday, now remember, at the gardens, the Wednesday tournament's a 10K guarantee. It's like 150 buy-in or something, maybe 180. 25K plus prize pool. So, congratulations to Ronald Moore, who got just shy of 4K plus the bounties because that's a bounty event. And then on Thursday, 17,000 in the prize pool. That's a 10K guarantee event again. Randall Birch got just 3.3 thousand. No picture of Randall, it looks like. Friday, that is a 20K guarantee, 28,000 in the prize pool. Spencer Bali got 4.3 thousand, so way to go there. Saturday, also 20K guarantee, got over 30K in the prize pool. So Calvin Ma walked away with 4.2 on that one. This man here, congratulations, Calvin. And then Sunday, also a 10K guarantee, almost doubled that guarantee to 19K. Dante Nicart got 3.3 thousand plus bounties. So way to go, Dante. And then one more thing to point out. This man here, Mr. Calvin Ma, he got the highest stack in the chop on Saturday, but just wanted to point out he also was involved in the chop on that Wednesday event that that Ronald took the highest score, and he got the second most in this event. So what a week he's having. So way to go, Calvin. Man, Jeremy walks away and gets married, spends a week away from the gardens, and Calvin takes over. So
yeah, you're the Calvin.
I know, right? Way to go.
You know, I actually do love that about Kevin, is that he just puts in the work, right? To like, give players their shine even in the dailies, puts it up on social media, puts it up on Twitter. Just such an awesome TD. He really just understands the community well.
Yeah. Yep. And I do notice that all the pictures weren't there, so I don't know if the people didn't want them or if maybe Kevin just wasn't in the room, but most of them are up. Love it. All right, let's get to the main course. So suspense, big surprise. Congratulations once again, Marc, winning the inaugural Parkwest Classic. Chopped it up. It looks like you actually, well, why don't you take over here? It looks like you actually chopped it up pretty even. Why don't you tell us about the final table, the final two here?
Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting situation. Where do I begin? I mean, basically what happened is when we got down to the final two, it was pretty even. I had a fairly decent chip lead on him, but I mean, it would have been a battle. For me, there was two parts to it. I had a conversation with him. Actually, you know what? I'm going to back up a little bit. Last night, the night before, there was a hand between us where he basically opened up for middle position. I had just become the chip lead, barely the hand before. He opened for middle position. There was a button call. I squeezed, and then he jammed. He had pocket tens. I had pocket aces, and he was the second chip lead at the time. It would have made me an overwhelming chip leader, and it was a 10 in the window. Basically, aces cracked, and it was the difference between having a huge lead and bringing me down to basically coming back to 17 and a half big blinds. And I kind of had this moment where, it was, I can get pissed off at this and say it's ridiculous or whatever it is, or I can try to keep my cool and say, you know what, this is just going to add to the story. I don't want to let that be the case. I mean, I've cracked aces plenty of times also, and I want this to add to the story, not take away from the story. What was funny is all my friends who are following the feed, I'm getting text messages. It was a guy named Everett. So all I'm getting is these text messages. Fuck Everett, fuck Everett, fuck Everett. It's just my friends being supportive. And, we finished the night and I was talking to him. He's really, really cool guy. He's actually got a great story. He hadn't played in almost 20 years. He focused on career, focused on family. And this was his first time coming back to play tournament in almost 20 years. And for him, I mean, it was just amazing. So fast forward to, it's down to the last two, and I've got a chip lead on him. And I basically said this to him. I said, listen, I'm not going to bullshit you. My ego wants to be the first person to get the second banner. If you're down, I'll split the money even with you right now. Let me get that banner with the chip lead right now. And he was like, done, like no question for him.
Wow. Nice.
I offered for him to, I said, do you want to take the trophy home? I thought it'd be a cool thing to take home to his wife and daughter. He was super happy with that. So it was a situation where I felt like,
nice.
I'm happy, he's happy. Like, I don't need to play for an extra 30 grand. And we ended up at 145 each. First would have been 175. Yeah. So that's kind of how it went down.
No, that's
nice.
Super nice, man. That is a really great story. It's a really really cool to hear both players getting to walk away so happy. And yeah, when I saw the post, I remember seeing that post about your aces getting cracked. And I remember thinking, Marc's probably going to be the next one out. And then I'm looking at the coverage and I'm like, oh, nope, there's someone out. And I'm like, I still haven't seen Marc's name. He's still in there. What the heck? So that's a really awesome comeback, man. So we will definitely circle back around and we'll get the whole story of the tournament from you. We'll let you start at the beginning. It sounds like I caught you off guard making you start at the end there. But yeah, that's really awesome. And you're even letting him have the trophy. That's crazy, man. The banner for sure is an amazing thing because there's just literally nobody. You're the first and you probably will be the only one for a very long time to have 2 banners up. So that's great.
I'm always willing to give up some amount of equity for a trophy, and then obviously for double banner, I would do that. And your story with aces is so funny. It instantly reminded me of. I'm not sure if either of you guys watched Receiver on Netflix. Did you watch that show?
Mm-mm.
About like these receivers in
No.
the NFL. So it was like George Kittle and the San Francisco 49ers. They were getting
Yeah.
beat in the first half in the playoffs, and then George Kittle says, I can't wait to say at the end of the game that they had us in the first half. I'm not gonna lie. That's what he said. And then they ended up winning the game. And
That's good.
afterwards, he literally got up on the podium, was like, they had us in the first half. I'm not going to lie. That's literally what you just did. You were just like, you know what, this is going to add to the story.
Yeah.
But that's amazing that you just kind of kept your head and you just kind of kept going, man. That's amazing. Because, I mean, something like that at the final table, I would just be like, you know, woe is me. And, oh, man.
Be like, I hope we're breaking for the day, right?
Right. Yeah. But, yeah, man, to keep your head and get all the way there, it's impressive.
I mean, I'll get more into it later after we're talking about the other stuff. But I mean, a big thing for me, honestly, is, I'm very lucky to have good people that I can talk to and kind of help me keep a level head. I mean, your mental headspace is so important, and it's so underrated. Of course, studying spots is important. Of course, reading patterns from people is important. Seeing dynamics, understanding different chip counts, all that stuff. But if you're not playing your game and in your head the right way, then none of that stuff matters. And a week ago in the last tournament, I got really, really tilted on a really ridiculous hand, and I was lucky enough to have Sohail Khalili, who's a way better player than I am. I was able to lean on him and talk to him, and he kind of talked it through with me. And there's so many of these guys. We talk about Sammy, who's in France right now, and just a lot of these great players that I look up to, that when I have those moments where I do go, woe is me, or get pissed off or stop playing my game, I have so many of these guys who've been doing this for so long that kind of make me realize that this is just, this is a game of variance, and it's just battling through that variance. So I do have good people to lean on.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. Let me no, that is 100% correct. I can't wait to get a little more insight on that for me. Let me just quick zip through the rest of the top 8, and then we'll start at the beginning. So the rest of the top 8, congratulations to Q Lee, 8th place. I feel like a show doesn't go by this year without us talking about Q, and I gotta say, I think this is a couple of these well-known names that we've been talking about are really going to shoot up in our Player of the Year rankings. So none of these results have shown up in Hendon yet, of course. It'll probably take several weeks. But when they do, I think Q might take the top spot. He was already, remember, in 4th place, I think, without having a win. Final tabling this guy, this is going to be big.
He is.
Can I tell you a funny story? Can I tell you a funny story about this, actually? And it's funny. Every deep tournament run, there was always one spot that I feel like there was an accident on my part that somehow ended up fortuitous for me. And there was one with him. I mistook, he had, I think, probably at that point, I don't know, maybe 15 big blinds or so. And the way Rick, who was in the big blind, the way he put it was the first hand of the day, or maybe the second hand of the day.
Of the last day, the top 8?
Of the last day,
okay.
Yeah. And so he puts in the the big blind ante, and then he delayed putting out the big blind, and my head wasn't quite right yet, and for some reason in my mind I thought that he opened under the gun. So then Q goes all in. I look down at pocket jacks, so in my mind it's under the gun open.
Yep.
He goes all in. Yep. I fold my pocket jacks, and then after the hand, I'm like, yeah, I folded pocket jacks. And they're like, what? And I'm like, well, under the gun open. And then he goes, there was no under the gun open. And
oh my gosh.
It's funny, like that one spot, and then it would have been ace queen versus, he showed ace queen. It would have been ace queen versus jacks. That one hand could very easily have gone his way, and then the whole tournament goes in a different direction.
Mark, buddy, there were at least 2 or 3 spots you could have gone bust. I mean, I telling you, I know for sure. I let you off the hook. So the number of spots you went through.
I know you're going to talk about.
I'm going to talk about it, but let's get there.
All right.
Let's get through though. Let's get through. So yeah, honestly, I myself. So spoiler, I got 22nd in this event. I came in second in chips on the day. I started out super hot, and then I just took my foot off the gas, and the poker god said, "Well, you don't want to win." So Did make 22nd. I had 3 interesting hands with Q myself. First one, when I still had a bunch of chips, he bluff caught me pretty well. Yanked a It was a ton of big blinds at the time off me. Made like a 200 something thousand. I don't know if you're a table yet or not. I made like a 200K river bet. Probably that was probably like 13 bigs or something, and he snapped me off with like middle pair. Then the next one, I turned a straight. Dude flopped the full house, and I had to. I went for the bet and had to tank fold the river because he basically put me all in. So I mean, Q's crazy like that. I mean, and by that I mean he just always has it, man. I don't know what it is. Every time I play a hand against him, he's got it. And then the last hand that I played against was significant. I swear, there's never been a day, and you started it. You're the one that started. I've never seen more people 4-bet jam tiny pairs over an open and a 3-bet. Like, never have I seen it so many times as I did that day. You started it, but later in the day, there were probably about, we had broken that table, so there were probably about like 38 people left or something. Q's in the big blind. I'm on the button. I don't have a ton of chips. I probably have like 15 big blinds or something, maybe 20. I open, the small blind literally has 2 big blinds. No, 2.5. He has barely a raise. So I open to like 2.2 or something, and the small blind tank jams for like 2.6 big blinds or something. Q just snap jams with threes. Snap jams with threes. I fold. I would have made a straight, but Q rivers the 3. He would have boated. I would have been out again. So yeah, the dude. I mean, it is. He's a tough customer, and it's no wonder he keeps making these final tables, man. He's fearless. He's getting in there, and he could have busted me 2 or 3 times that day. So I just need to avoid him is what I need to do. And
you're
also
right that his skill actually does sometimes just feel a little bit like he just shows up in the right spots with the big hands.
Yeah.
And it's you know what? And I don't, obviously with his consistency and results, I don't think it's just luck. Is that
No.
he actually is doing something right? It's like Jedi mind tricking
It's,
us, right?
it's
Into
every
thinking
time
we're
you
gonna
have a hand, he just has the nuts.
Right,
It's like I
right.
don't know how he does it,
Yeah,
but that's his skill. It's like, I've got a great hand. He's got the
yeah,
nuts. Good luck.
yeah,
All
He's
right.
a fantastic player. He's
No,
really,
he
really,
really
really
is,
good
and
player.
his
yeah.
consistency is amazing. So I love it. I love it. So 7th place, Jesse Jorigwe. Congrats. He listens to the show. I believe he's Dr. Poker on Twitter. So Jesse, another good result here. I don't think he comes out frequently, but when he does, he does well. 5th place, Benjamin Tang. Congrats. 6th place. Oh, I went out order. 6th place, Trung Li. And then 4th place, Ryan Tosick. So
Wow.
this year is kind of this year and a half. I've noticed a lot of poker pros kind of settling down around LA, playing more of our local tournaments. We got Ryan Tosick smashing this one, 4th place. When I saw him still in, I'm like, geez, they're gonna have a tough out here. And
Tosic is I
I
would
can't.
consider a top tier
I
player.
can't. I
Yeah.
can't tell you how happy I was that I was directly to his left.
oh,
I mean, honestly,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yep, I met him not this year, but last year. The last table I played at the main event on at the end of day whatever 4 or whatever. The last table I went to in the main event was, I didn't know who he was yet, but I sat at the table long enough that in the feature tables from the past they were showing on the walls, he eventually came up. So I'm sitting there. There's Ryan Tosick to my right. I got Joe Hashim to my left. I got Bill Klein and Maurice Hawkins and some other guy who just won a bracelet earlier. It was like, oh, great. So I finally got to a tough table. But so Ryan's here, and we got Ben Hastings, right? He's around more, playing a lot more in LA. So tournaments around LA could start getting harder if they get better. So Ryan went out in 4th, and then Rick Meschamil eliminated in 3rd. He was, we were grinding a pretty short stack together for the kind of mid, 50s and 40s. So he made a good run at it. Way to go. Congratulations, Rick.
Good to see Rick go through. I mean, I play with him a lot, and we talk to each other a lot.
Super cool
he's
guy.
Good guy, yeah.
Super cool guy. All right, so those are all the significant results that we have. Let's turn it over. Derek, you want to kick us off here with let's get to know our champion.
Yeah, so Mark, I think you and I have talked, and I'm sure you talked to Ty a lot too, but I actually don't really know that much about you. Like how, first let's just start with basics. Like how long have you actually been in Los Angeles?
Born and raised.
Ah,
Born and raised in LA. Lived in. I went to college in Colorado in Boulder. Was actually trying. I wanted to be a basketball coach. That was my first career path, and
nice.
did that, and was a high school coach out in Colorado for a few years. came back to LA. My dad had hurt his neck. I wanted to help out. Got into the restaurant business. Then moved to Paris. Lived in Paris for a few years,
Oh,
and came back, and I've been back ever since.
Paris
Nice.
a few years. So you speak French?
Actually, my first language. Both my parents are French.
Oh,
That's why
that's why
Sammy
Sammy
says
said you are the best
yeah,
French player left in LA. That makes a lot of sense.
yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. So, how? So you said you work in the restaurant business. So is that what you're doing right now? You work in the restaurant business?
No, so I actually I don't know if you guys know like the Hillstone restaurant chain, the Houston's restaurant and Gulfstream.
Oh yeah.
So I used to be a man. So I used to be a manager in my early 20s for a few of those restaurants, and then my dad, who used to be a chef, we opened a French restaurant together actually on Melrose, French
Oh,
steakhouse and wine bar. But at the same time, I was getting into the film business, so I was kind of doing both. So that's actually what I do. Is I was in feature film development for a long time. Now I am a production consultant for the Toronto Film Commission. So going to Toronto in a few weeks
oh,
for
very
the film
cool.
festival,
Nice.
Awesome.
and it affords me flexibility to be able to do this as well,
Is
which is
that
great.
is that restaurant still around?
No, we actually closed at the beginning of the pandemic,
Oh
and
no.
but it was great. I mean, the reviews were amazing, the business was great. So it's one of those things where it's like we left on top.
Yeah, better to
Yeah.
We
close at the
never the restaurant,
beginning than try to lose money
and
throughout.
that business sucks. So like to have
Yeah.
like that 6 year stretch where everything was great, and then just go out on our terms.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
not
well,
our terms exactly, but like
Right, right.
to go out without closing because business was
Yep.
bad or anything like that was
Well,
nice.
that's
what
awesome.
Yeah,
was the name of it?
it was called L'Assiette. So L apostrophe ASSIETTE. L'Assiette Steak Free.
Okay.
Oh, was that the steak frite place that was like really oh my God, that was you? That's
That was our spot.
closed? Oh
Yeah.
Oh
no.
no,
I
Derek
used to
loved that place
love going to
apparently.
that place. Oh my God, yeah, it was oh yeah.
Well, I'll tell you a little thing that I probably shouldn't say yet. We're actually working on something where my dad's preparing. We did one of the things we did was we cooked our steak sous vide, and we're now preparing different things where we're going to do kind of duck breast and steaks and different things that we're going to prepare sous vide, chili, and then sell at the farmers markets. So like in
Oh,
Brentwood
Wow.
and Santa Monica, and basically make take home meals that you can easily just then throw on the grill for a few
Jeez.
minutes, and
all right.
whatever it is. So we're working on it right now.
Wow.
I'm on the west side, so you just let me know where I need to walk to get that stuff.
Sounds good.
Man, this is awesome. Mark, you could be a great guest on like 3 or 4 different podcasts, it sounds like. If I like, I'm gonna have to hook up, grab Beth and be like, look, instead of coming on and talk about poker, let's talk about film and entertainment. We'll have Mark on, we'll talk about that. And then we just go, let's do food. Let's grab someone else, let's do food. um, so that's awesome. That gives you the flexibility to do some more of this. And now I was sort of checking out that Hendon mob, and I did notice that your results ticked up a lot right around the pandemic.
Yeah.
Now, I think this is true for a lot of us. I think, honestly, Derek and I, a lot of the other people we talked to kind of switched to tournaments around then as well. So a lot of people's Hendons that we've been looking at kind of tick up around then, but kind of makes sense. You left the restaurant business right around then, and then, well, you decided to spend more time on poker as well as the film. Is that kind of what happened?
So I mean, honestly, I've been playing poker my whole life. I mean, I remember even being in middle school and not knowing what I was doing, but we would try to get poker games, and it was probably just playing like 5 card draw for like the
Nice.
$3
Yep.
allowance that we had. And but I loved it. And then in high school we would get home games, and then I went to college, and um, it was funny. This was before all the poker sites shut down, so we would get a home game, and half the guys would have laptops open with like full tilt poker or like whatever it is while we were playing the home game also. Um, but I was always just kind of fun cash. And, I read books, but I never really studied. I kind of just went on instinct. And I was one of the better players in the group, but I didn't take it like that seriously. And then I started to play kind of more, I guess the 5-5 games around LA. And I had a good win rate.
And what year was
Probably
this?
like, so this is, I mean, probably around maybe 3 or 4 years before the pandemic.
Okay.
I started to play maybe 20 hours a week.
Okay.
So at the Bike, Commerce, Hollywood Park, get the 5-5 game, and I was good. I mean, good enough. I was probably winning like 6 to 8 big blinds per hour, something like decent, nothing amazing, but good. And then I played one tournament at Hollywood Park that I won for 20K. That's not on Hendon Mob.
Yeah.
And
Damn Hollywood Park.
I thought I'm good at this. And then I didn't cash for the next maybe 15 tournaments that I played, and I realized I just got
Tournament
lucky.
poker.
I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I would do these things that made no sense looking back at it. And that was when I started to kind of get obsessed with it. Got fun to realize what I didn't know. And that made me want to study. And I started to like the process of learning what my mistakes were almost more than the playing of the game itself. And then at the beginning of the pandemic, I decided I want to get a coach. I want to get a coach to really understand what my mistakes are and get kind of build my game back up from the ground up. And I worked with Chris Konvalinka, and he comes from kind of the Berkey world, and was great. And we would just do video sessions maybe twice a week, and probably did that for I don't know 3 or 4 months. And it completely changed the way I didn't fully understand sizing and the reasons behind it. I maybe understood that on this kind of board you bet small and this kind of board you bet, but I didn't understand why. And he really did a good job of explaining that.
Nice.
And then I started to go back and read some of the books that I wasn't ready to read at the time. So like I remember reading, I had um, books that were talking about minimum defense frequency. And I remember back at the day, I was reading it just because I thought it was smart, but I didn't know what that meant. And
Yeah.
now I would go back and read those things and understand the concept
Now
a
you
little
get
bit
it.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it was probably, it's funny. I can actually tell you exactly because I had a funny moment with Larry, the floor guy at the bike. And I asked him this a few weeks ago.
He might be in the chat.
Um,
Larry, chat if you're in there. Carry on.
there was a moment when I first started to try to understand ranges at different stack depths at different parts of the tournament. And this is the first time I actually wanted to really understand that. And there was a time, this was, I guess, year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago, and I was playing in a tournament at the bike, and I wasn't in a hand, but I kind of stepped away and I was looking at a range thing, and Larry being he's the best floor man in LA. He's amazing. He didn't embarrass me. He quietly pulled me aside and said, "You're not allowed to do that."
Yeah.
Which obviously now, yes, but at the time I was like, I'm not in the hand. This is fine. And but the reason I bring that up is because that to me was the moment when I really started to kind of get serious about tournament poker and understanding the nuance between all the different spots. So I asked Larry, "Do you remember when that was?" And he said, "I think it was probably around March last year because that was when we kind of put the rule in place and when I would have said it." So it was probably March last year when I really started to take it seriously and just enjoy the studying in the process.
Wow, that's amazing because it was only a year later when you had your first massive score at the Mini Mega Millions. This was only, I mean, this year. I got to ask you, how's it feel? Does it feel real this year to have spiked two massive tournaments at the bike within what has it been 6 months or something? I mean,
It's
in yeah,
unbelievable.
so in April, Mark won the winning on the green mini Mega Millions for 147,000. That's the first banner he's got up there. And now here in mid-August, he's got another banner. He won the inaugural Parkwest Classic. Like, come on, tell us, how does that feel? Like, do you feel like you're just gonna go into the Mega Millions next week just feeling like you can't lose? Like, how do you feel?
Honestly, it's obviously it's surreal, but when I won the first one, you of course you have to get lucky. It doesn't matter how good you are, you have to get
Yep.
lucky. When I won the first one, all I was focused on in my head was how lucky I was. It wasn't how well I did. It was, man, like I remember on day two, I hit a 4 outer, and I'm like, I can't believe I hit that 4 outer. And then we get to the final table, and there was a spot where someone jammed 60 big blinds into me with in a situation that they never should be doing that, and it was a gift to me. And it was all these things that's all I kept thinking about was I felt like an imposter. Felt great. It was amazing. Financially, it was fantastic. Having a banner up there was crazy. But I'm playing with players that I know are insanely better than me. And that final table in particular, that for that one that I won, I'm sitting there with Sohail, with Sammy, with Max, I think his last name is Young, amazing pro, plays out of Florida, who's a great player. I mean,
Yep.
guys that are more skilled than me. They have um, more history. They're just, I know they're better qualified. And so in my mind, I'm like, this is great, but I haven't proven anything to myself yet. And I wanted to earn that. So until I continued that success in my mind, it was like, this is a dream and it's just not going to last. When I won the second one, I still understand that luck played a huge part in it, but at least what I've been feeling the last few days is yes, luck is there, but I think I can compete. And all these people that I look up to, and it's funny. I remember like 3 or 4 weeks ago, I was playing with Rudy, and Rudy, busted out, and I felt this need to walk up to him and just tell him like, I look up to you, and it's an honor to be able to play this game with you. And so, like now, to say, you know what, maybe I can hang with these guys. You have guys like David and Eugene. These are guys that I know are better players than me. But now, at least, I feel like maybe I'm at least not at that level, but I can play with anyone, and that's a good feeling.
Hey,
I'll tell you where you are, man. And it's number one, it's great that you have such a humble attitude, and then how you described your almost like attraction to learning, where it was almost like learning about your mistakes was actually more fun to you than playing. Like this is how players get better.
yeah.
But then the fact that you sought out a coach, the fact that you use solvers and you put in the work, and I see you all the time in those like strategy threads that I have, like really contributing.
Mhm.
I don't think you realize how good you are, because I remember one of the actually, was it the one that you shipped? I think it might have been the one that you shipped.
Oh yeah, I
I
was
don't
gonna
remember
bring
if
that
you were
up. You
there.
got 18th, Derek.
Oh, that was the
You
one.
got
Yeah,
18th, and I was gonna
I think you
ask,
were.
did you
I
bust
think you
him?
were. I think you were at the table when I bluffed it off with bluffing off like the flush draw, right, or the flush,
Yeah,
in a massive
yeah,
pot. Yeah, and
yeah.
I feel like everybody believed me, anyways, you sat down at a table with me, Sohail, Sammy, David. And when you sat down, I was like, "Well, okay, here's another killer." That's what I said, right? Great, here's another killer. So you're at the good people's level, whether you realize it or not, and it's great for you to continue to have the humble attitude. But that's where you are now, man, for sure.
Yeah, no, I
No,
absolutely echo that. Yep.
I appreciate that, and honestly, and I was saying this to my girlfriend, that to me, we're very lucky in that this is a thing that we love, and we get to regularly play with people that are great at it. That's like being a basketball player and being able to play pickup with Michael Jordan or LeBron James or whatever it is. Like I've been able to sit at a table with Sean Deeb and whoever these guys are, and it's a rare experience. So, um, it's just it's yeah. I think I do think I'm realizing that I'm a better player than I thought I was, but I also know how much better I can get, and I don't ever, to be honest, I don't ever want to change that mind state.
You do not.
So
That there is
yeah,
always room for
Well,
growth. It doesn't matter.
I'm
yeah.
gonna compliment you as much as possible from here on out to try and get you to that arrogant level, so you will stop
So you
studying.
stop learning.
Actually,
Yeah.
because if we could get you to slow down, that would be great. Because I know I personally, like Derek said, you're definitely on the list of people when if I see your name on the table, I'm like, oh, why?
It's like a
Why
little bit of a
can't I
sigh.
wait?
Yeah.
Like, why's he gotta be on this table right now? Damn it! So, as if two banners wasn't enough evidence, you definitely have the respect of all the regs around LA. That's for sure.
No, I appreciate that, guys.
Um, yeah.
And
So
so,
go ahead.
so with that, like, I think you've also been in all the threads where we've been talking about like growth, right, in LA poker. So, what are your actual thoughts right now on the health of the LA poker ecosystem?
I mean, it feels like it goes in waves. Sometimes I feel like it's thriving, and then sometimes I feel like I'm not sure what happened. I think um, I think the casinos just keep making so many changes that it
Yeah.
creates kind of uncertainty with what the expectation is. I think there's a I think the cash tables have a much bigger effect on the tournaments than people realize. I think a lot of players who are true wrecks say, I've got a Friday night or I've got a Friday day, I want to make the most of it. And I'm going to go play this tournament. And if I bust, then I'm going to go play cash. And it used to be that at a place like the bike, playing cash was a great experience. It was a lot of fun.
Yep.
The food was good. The prices were good. That
Yeah.
everything was fantastic. And you know what? I busted this tournament. Who cares? I'm going to go play this 5-5 or 5-10 game until 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
That's not really happening as much. So I think there's a lot of great work that's being done on the tournament side to attract players, but sometimes the stuff around it is not that great. Commerce, it was great that they got the WSOP branding, but the food situation still sucks. The cash games, unless you're playing the high stakes in that little, cubby, not great. So it's I think it all kind of goes together.
No, I played the cash game in what felt like a closet at the bike the other day. That back room used to be a nice room, but now it's all storage. It's all storage and like plastic. It looks like you're in a closet.
And you don't hear music. And
yeah,
it's just
everything's there's nothing. Yeah, absolutely. Bike used to be my favorite. When I moved here, the bike was hands down my favorite place to play cash.
Yeah. That's where I cut my teeth, was at the bike and a lot of their 5-10 games. But it's interesting when you say that, because it makes me think that I am partially in denial, because deep down I do feel like there's some fragility, right, to our growth. I always am trying to pump up and say good things when I see positive things, but I always just feel like we're sort of on a tightrope. You know what I mean? So it's a good observation.
For sure. Yeah. And I think that because gambling and poker, except for the people who are kind of diehard in love with the game like us, it's interchangeable, right? There's so many other things they can do to interchange that with, right? That they can swap out their going to play poker money and time with. It's that a small thing could have a big impact. So I think you're right there for sure. So, on that topic, one of the things I wanted to talk about today was, we didn't mention it yet, but in case you haven't heard, the Parkwest Classic actually had an overlay. It overlaid by about $47,000 off of its $1 million guarantee, which, isn't a massive amount, but any overlay at all was pretty shocking.
Yeah.
I would have definitely bet against this event overlaying $1 million over that many flights. Should not have been a big deal in my mind at all.
I would have lost a lot of money. I would have lost a lot of money over.
So,
honestly, it wasn't the only overlay for this series. There's been several. I mean, I think I messaged Derek about one of the dailies that.
Some of the dailies.
It was a $20,000 overlay on the daily.
Really?
They were doing these satellites. I think it was for
the satellites have been overlaying a lot. Yeah, the Friday and the earlier in the week, satellites have been overlaying pretty consistently. So, pro tip: if you want to play a satellite for the mega, go on a Friday or go on go not on the Saturday before, but the Friday before. But yeah, the satellites definitely have been overlaying a lot. I hadn't noticed the dailies overlaying though. I've only really been paying attention to the big multi-days.
It was one that I went to play. It was just a Wednesday, and I just felt like playing and went over there. And yeah, it was pretty significant for a single day.
Wow. Yeah, I mean that's great for grinders or whatnot. But the thing that these places have to evaluate, right, is like, who are you catering to with the weekday events with the guarantees? Because it's not people like me and Derek who have jobs that we can't get out of during the week. It's not the real casual wrecks that have jobs during the week. Like, who are you trying to get to come play these events, right? People with extremely flexible schedules. Like, pros don't really even go because a 20K guarantee isn't really worth it for a pro, right? It's got to be people who just love playing, or they're doing it really for the recreation, right? We're doing it because we love the game. So it's kind of you got to know who you're targeting and be appropriate there. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, I think honestly, without the branding, they need to do something else. Whether it's like advertise a player of the series kind of concept, or something that encourages volume. Because otherwise, I 100% agree. No one's gonna just randomly go on a Wednesday and play.
Yeah. So I kind of want to throw around some ideas as to like, why do we think this event overlaid? We were also confident it wouldn't overlay, right? So I had a bunch of ideas. One thing that's pretty easy to point at, and this could be an excuse, but it could be a scheduling thing. There were other events happening, and when I say scheduling, I think one of the big things against it, and we're seeing this right now with the commerce, the casinos around here, the tournaments series, they have a tendency to not release their schedules until almost the last minute.
Yeah.
I mean, we roughly know when a series is going to happen, but you don't know what exactly order things are going to happen. You don't know if there'll be a change. Like other places having run good ring events, moneymaker, whatever, circuit events, especially WPTs, they release their schedule 6 months in advance. People can plan to come there. You can try and get other people, but LA is they've kind of resigned themselves that like only people that we're going to get come here and play are LA people. So we're just release our schedule 2 weeks before the series starts, right? So to that end, a lot of LA people like Frank are, the most grindiest reg that plays, Frank in the chat every week. He went to Arizona. He went to Talking Stick to play in the Arizona State Championship. And holy cow, he was not the only person. I mean, look at this. They broke a record. They had 2,860 entries in a tournament that is basically the exact same tournament as the Parkwest Classic. So the question really is like, why did they get 1,800 more entries than we did? Like, holy freaking cow. I mean, is Talking Stick Resort such a nicer place to go than Los Angeles? I don't think so. So
I'm shocked. I never even heard of Talking Stick. Like I don't.
I've definitely heard of it. Yeah, I've heard of this, but only I heard of it from another LA player that would go there every year, and I'm like, wow, that sounds really juicy. I should go there sometime. But what is going on, right? So scheduling could be a problem because there were other events, right? That it wasn't just this one. Looks like Justin Hammer down in Texas. He's running some events in Texas. They were potentially breaking Texas records. They had an event just on Tuesday, but I think this was going on. If you're going to play it, you would have to go there this weekend. They had almost 600 entries in a one day on a freaking Tuesday. So what are these guys doing that is different? Like, what's wrong with what we did, right? So scheduling could be a problem. People did literally leave. People may not have, like you said, Mark, I think the marketing is a huge problem. We've mentioned this before, and I did just see a Commerce billboard on my way to this day too. Commerce, I think, put a billboard on the way to the bike, so that's a little cheeky. But, there's still no schedule out, so no one can know what's actually happening. So the marketing, there's like no marketing. I don't think anyone who wasn't super curious about what popped up in Poker Atlas knew that this was not a quantum, knew that this tournament was happening, knew that it's going to be special, quote unquote, right? Like, the structure was amazing. This tournament was great. It's such a shame, such a crime that it overlaid. So, I mean, I don't know. What else do you got? What do you think, Derek? What else could have been the problem?
It's really, I mean, like I said, I'm shocked. I'm absolutely shocked. I thought they were gonna blow away that guarantee. So like I'm almost grasping at straws, right? Where, was it people finally got sick of double bag bonuses and how high the double bag bonus was that kind of turned them away, right? Was it just the enormous number of flights, right? Where people just, and I think it was Craig Chait who had basically said they were cannibalizing themselves, and it's very, very true, right? So yeah, it could be any of those factors, and then maybe I hope that it's not a bad signal for LA poker in general. Like, are we sort of teetering out a little bit, right? Is that fragility that Mark was mentioning, is that kind of coming into play? So I guess we'll see, but it's really unfortunate because this was definitely the tournament that we wanted to show up for, right? This was supposed to be our proof, right? That we didn't need all these other crazy other types of nutty tournaments. Just have a super solid, good structured, like normal one. Hopefully, I wish they didn't have the double bag bonuses, but yeah, it just really, really sucks.
So it's interesting because it's a little bit of a double-edged sword with the double bag bonuses, because when it's a lower entry point, $380 or whatever it is, I think a lot of rec players love chasing the double bag bonus, and they'll keep firing because they think, oh, I'm going to get a big bag. I can afford to do 4 or 5 of these. When you get to the $1,200 price point, they're not doing that. They're thinking, I've got 1 shot, maybe 2 shots. But then the pros that you're talking about, they're not going to want to do that because they don't like that it's taking away from the top, and it's a $1 million guarantee where first place is only $170,000. Right. So I think it can kind of work on the lower price point in terms of bringing people in, but at the higher price point, I think you have to get rid of it.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I never thought about that, in that almost the lower price point with a double bag bonus, that is inviting more to Rex who can afford that price point. And the only people that can really try and double bag on the higher ones are the real grinders, the ones that we kind of complain about. But like at the lower price point, having that extra bag bonus, I think that's going to draw a much wider net to get the numbers up because, we did see people bag. There were 12 double bags, but man, with the size of that bonus, 8,000 per person,
so high.
12 double bags seems like a low number, especially for the bike, right? When we're used to seeing these 20 flight tournaments where they have like 30 something double bags, 40 double bags, but 12 bags was still enough to pull out a tenth of the prize pool.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like
we got Mike Yu in chat, and this might be Mike Ung.
Probably.
Kind of what I'm reading. It just sounds a lot like Mike Ung. He's saying basically the same thing that Jarek Reiner had said in one of my threads, that the bike overlaid because they closed late reg end of level. Basically they closed it when they had 40 BB, right?
Yeah.
And if you just extended that to 20 BB, they probably would have made it. However, I think we're all a little bit like hesitant about super long reg periods. We complained about that in the past, but to both of their points, like it's true. They just kept it open until 20 BB. They would have made it.
And my counter to that is I almost feel like similar result but a different solution, I guess. I felt that the structure of this tournament was so good.
Oh, exactly.
It was so amazing.
It was almost too good.
We could have almost started with 30K, and it would still have been a great, amazing tournament. And then when reg closed, now you're not going to have 40 bigs. You'll have 30. That is more reasonable, right? And then that gives people more chance to bust. I was telling Jeff, you only got one bullet out of me because I got very lucky and made it through in one bullet. But even if I hadn't gotten lucky, I was sitting on that starting stack well past reg closing. Like I couldn't bust, and if I can't bust, that means that you and the Mike Danleys are having trouble busting as well because we have too many chips. The stacks are too big.
I tried to bust and they wouldn't let me.
You couldn't. You ended reg with probably like 12 bigs still because you tried to bust, it just wouldn't work. I mean, that's where I would have been, but I got lucky. What did you think of the? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, Mike's also making some other good points too, and I had kind of thought about this, and this is a little bit tied to, I hope it's not, tailwinds, like bad tailwinds, but WSOP drains people's bankrolls, and people are a little bit exhausted, and this is the series right after the WSOP, so that could have some sort of effect. Win had multiple events last week that overlaid, Win never overlays. Also, by the way, congrats, Mark. We played for a bit in the Random Commerce tourney a couple of series ago. We were neighbors, and you were cool. Happy for you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Who is this?
This is probably Mike Ong.
This is probably Mike Ong.
Yeah.
Oh,
yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
he's a Ray. If you don't know, he'll tell you next time he sees you now that he's interacting with you in chat. I agree, Mike. I thought the scheduling of the flights was a little odd. And did they advertise that later flight was shorter? I know it was in the structure sheets, but if I have a second flight, my afternoon flights are faster, I would write turbo on them and I would make them turbo. They made them 30-minute levels. I would have made them 25-minute levels and said turbo. I don't think they didn't label them different. If you look at the sheet, the only thing, there's nothing about it that indicates it'd be a different structure until you click show me the structure, right? Other than logic saying, shoot, this is going to go until 4 a.m. if they don't change it, right? But and then to come back to the bagging bonus, I think, Mark, what you're saying about kind of more recreational players not wanting to commit that extra money to try and get extra bags, I think what I heard from a lot of Rex was that that bag bonus was so big it was a real turnoff from them. And I think that since they can't go for it, it makes it even more of a turnoff for them because they know that the people going for it are the ones that they don't want to be playing against, the ones that they already feel like are buying their way to a win or who already feel like they have, they're disadvantaged against, right? So I heard on Twitter and in person, I heard a number of people talk about that double bag bonus turned them off. It was like, that's not fair. I don't want to bother because it's unfair. So I know we always say here on the show that we think these double bag bonuses are just too big. So, okay. But enough. That's,
by the way, I just looked up Michael Long. Very, very cool. I
you
saw
know?
the picture. Very cool guy.
Yeah, you do know.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right. So hopefully that's who Mike Yu is in the chat. We're pretty sure.
Yeah, just the way he's writing.
Yeah, for sure. I think so.
That's pretty. Yeah.
All right. So let's. We don't want to dwell on that too much, but we're hoping. And I guess my very last point is hopefully, since he did say they're going to do this again, hopefully people can start relying on this event being on the calendar every year. They can start planning for it. It can start being more of an event, and that will really help. Because I think the one thing that's great about marketing is if you are a reliable, repeatable thing, people can plan for you, and that'll get you here. Hey, it's Rick. Congratulations, Rick.
Yeah, congrats, Rick. Good job, buddy.
He says, I can always find a way to bust. Yeah. So why don't we circle back around? Why don't we why don't you talk us through the tournament? Why don't you talk us through some of the highlights, some of the key points? Why don't you tell us about your run, Mark? Now that we've got Rick in the chat, I'm sure he'd love to hear about. Did you bust Rick?
Rick's a tough player, man. He's a really tough player. I don't know. I mean, what are some of the key spots? I mean, there was, there were a few spots that were.
Okay, well, first off, how many bullets did you fire to get through?
Just the one.
Just one.
Wow.
Nice. We were in the same flight. We were in the same flight, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I had some, like we said, some good spots, some lucky spots. I mean, there's the we can talk about the fours.
So let's talk about our tournament experiences together. So we were in the same flight. We avoided each other. I don't think I played a hand with you all of day one, right?
Hold on. Let me preface this by saying that Ty could do no wrong. Ty was on a sun run. Like, it was unbelievable.
Yeah, and it got
like the man could do no wrong.
Brought to a screeching halt as soon as I folded that hand to Mark. That was it. I passed the sun run on, obviously, that hand. But yeah, day one, I don't think we played a hand together. Did we play at the same table on day one?
No, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Yeah. So how did your day one go?
Day one was good. It was pretty steady. There wasn't anything crazy. It's funny. I remember calling my girlfriend after, and she doesn't fully know the rules, but she knows enough for me to be like, there was this big spot, and there wasn't. It was kind of steady play.
Mm-hmm.
No crazy flips, or at least not for any huge pots. It was just steady. Until the end. At the end of day one, then it got hot at the right time, and I think I ended up bagging. What was it? 517. I think 517 was what I bagged.
Okay.
But it really was just kind of trying to stay steady around 40 big blinds, 45 big blinds, and then the last hour kind of getting a few big bags.
Nice.
And I definitely was a little bit more aggressive around the bubble and took advantage of it and got in some good spots, but for the most part, nothing crazy.
That's my favorite kind of poker. Those are my favorite tournaments when you can just say, I'm just, I'm not seeing a lot of showdowns. I'm just chipping up. I'm just making my way up. It's great. Yeah, I had a very different day. I started the day hot. I went to like 120 in like level 2 or 3. And then I basically played 0 hands until I chipped all the way back down to about 50K, which starting with 40K, right? So average. And then I stayed at 50K until probably around like level 11 or something. Like we bagged at like level 13, I think, right? I think that was where we bagged. So I stayed at like 50K until like level 10 or level 11. Got a double up. Got some lucky wontons from Mr. Adam Swan.
Lucky dumplings.
Dumplings, that's right. So he ordered wontons from the Asian place. They didn't have any. So they gave him this giant container with like all the leftover wontons. It was like piled up high. He's like, I can't eat all these. You want some? So I finished those off. Really? I finished those off for him. I turned around on my table, and the next thing I know, I make one. It wasn't even a tight fold. I make one fold. Dude jams short stack early. I fold twos, whatever. In like very early position also. Like he's under the gun. I'm like +2. I'm like, whatever. I fold twos. Would have made a set. Would have knocked him out. Whatever. Who cares? For some reason, the table for the next 3 orbits decided to limp my big blind. I flopped a set, trips, and like top pair and won all 3 big blinds. So now I'm at like 100 and I'm at like 120 from nothing. Like I just didn't have to do anything. Just sit there, check. Oh, I have the nuts. And then in literally the next half hour, I hit 3 sets. I get aces and kings, and it's just like I go from 120 to 750 just like that. And it's like, wow. Yeah, it was insane. So I finished the night out. Queens in the blinds, one of the short stacks jams, we're on the bubbles. Short stack jams 100K. I doubled him earlier. He got lucky. His jack 10 off versus my ace queen, but it's fine because he jammed this hand. I'm in the blinds. I looked down at queens. Bubbles over. I bagged 900. Awesome. Second in chips, day 2. All right, let's go to day 2, Mark. How was your day 2? Up until you come to my table.
Okay, well, so this hand with the 4s. So Pi is just, Pi is,
yeah,
well over 1 million chips right now.
Did you see my ace king, or did you come after that?
What was the ace king here?
So
yeah. You mean the ace king versus the ace king, and then you got I was there.
Yeah.
It was ace king offsuit versus ace king offsuit, and you got the flush.
That was the last lucky hand I played that day. I have about 1.1 million or so, maybe 101 million flat. The guy to my left has about 450. is it Vongdo or Trung? I think it's Vongdo. He won the he won the Gardens one. So he's to my right. He opens ace queen. I got ace king. I raise. Guy to my left. Tank raises. Folds around. I jam. He calls. We both have ace king. I'm like, chop it up, whatever. No, not today. Give me your stack. I've got 1.5 million. And then Mark comes. And then Mark just sat down. I think you were like just putting your chips on the table at the time.
Yeah, I just moved over.
Yep.
I played like maybe an orbit or something.
Okay.
Nothing crazy.
Okay. And then I should have busted Mark's ass because I know he's dangerous, and I could have taken him, and I could have taken you and Mike Liang down at the same time and got you off the table, and then I wouldn't have had to deal with any good players at my table for another couple hours. But you're better than me, Mark. You had me. You knew it. You read me like a book.
To be fair, when you hear the story, I mean, it was an obvious fold for you, but you were on the run of
I know.
runs.
That was the only reason I almost I literally was like, if I should have snap called without thinking, I should have just not played poker. I should have been like, I'm lucky. Okay. I think I actually said that.
Okay, so I was under the gun with probably around 40 big blinds at the time, and the
small blind had like 8 or 10 big blinds, right? Like 8 big blinds, maybe.
Small blind, was like I think even a little less than that. And
yeah.
No, it was less. It was less than that because I sized down. Yeah, I had been.
It was like 6.5 or 7 big blinds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had been opening around 2.5 big blinds, and I saw that the small blind,
who's Mike Liang,
was kind of at. Yeah.
Yep.
So I sized down a little bit, and I had pocket fours, which I think at 40 big blinds, most of the time I'm folding. But I thought this was a good spot that if someone calls and then he jams, I can rejam and get this all in for a pretty good situation, depending on what position the call behind comes. If it was an early position call, I obviously wouldn't do that. But if it was a late position call, maybe cut off or button, then I can rejam and get heads up with the 6 big blinds for a juice pot.
But instead, he gets the monster stack in middle position, dead center position to call. Okay.
Who is playing every hand because he's playing a heater right now.
Okay, I always play every hand. Like I always play every hand. All right, carry on.
Anyway, so I open 2 big blinds. He calls from I think it was the hijack.
It wasn't the button or the cutoff. It was so it could be the hijack. It could be the hijack.
Small blind jams. I rejam for the 40 big blinds. He gives the whole speech about how he should call because he's on the run of all runs. I'm pretty sure I'm good, the whole thing. And then he folds. I show pocket fours. He said he had pocket
No, that's
five,
not even the
6s.
best part. It's not even the best part. You show pocket fours, and Q's at our table. He's in the big blind because Q tanked, and Q goes, "That's what I folded. I folded that. I had that."
Oh yeah, he had pocket fours.
Q had pocket fours. No, I'll tell you. That's the reason it was such a tough decision is because I had 8s. I'm like, oh God. If I thought you were wild, if I thought you were not that good, I would call 8s is right on the edge.
Yeah, that's a borderline.
Exactly. I'm like, why does it have to be 8s is like a half and half, and that's why I was thinking. That's why I'm like, I should just let luck be the decider. It's so on the edge.
And the funny thing is if I wasn't under the gun, I wouldn't have done that because I knew that my range is going to be a lot stronger. And honestly, I probably shouldn't even have pocket fours in that spot at all. If it was middle position, I would never do that. It would be way too dangerous. Yep. But in that spot, I figured I'm putting a lot of pressure on those mid pairs, and even a hand like pocket 9s, pocket 10s is going to feel uncomfortable. So.
But and you know what? We had such we weren't even trying to mentally level or whatever. But there was such weird leveling going on there because you said your perception of me was I was playing every hand. I remember thinking I was actually like I have all these chips. I'm gonna just try and play kind of like conservative-ish. So I didn't feel like I was playing that loose for me.
You were just getting hands.
Right. So, hands. But I didn't realize your perception was I'm just playing very loose. And then the other thing I didn't realize was that, you're playing well, which means you don't give a damn. You're going to make the right play. My perception was I have all the chips. People should be more careful when I'm playing in with them, right? So my thought was, you're opening early, sure, but I have so many chips I could accidentally call you if you were to do something silly. So I'm just going to call, and if he jams, you have to be careful about your jams, not I can be aggressive with my jams because I'm in early, right? Because there's a lot of other players who we play with. If they have all those chips, they're not going to read you as an early position. They're just going to be like, I'm playing my hand, right? So there were so many I didn't know you thought that way. I didn't know you were this, I didn't know you didn't care about busting this much. I didn't know you thought I was wide. I didn't know you were, this and that, and then you didn't know I was thinking that you would be tighter, but actually you were being normal, right? And
Yeah.
also you said you
I
might
mean,
not even open fours sometimes, so it's like there's such a
well,
crazy thing.
yeah, yeah. No, I mean, and honestly, like to go back to what we were saying, earlier, that's what's it's fucking crazy about this game is that I win this thing, I get the second banner, me opening under the gun, you calling from the high, you could be very strong there. You could be doing that with hands that are going to snap call as well because I'm under the gun and you've got this stack.
Yep.
I mean, I've seen players do that with premium hands,
Yeah.
and it wouldn't be wrong to sometimes do that. And this was a spot where that wasn't the case. But if it was, I'm not here having this conversation with you.
Yeah,
So,
or Mike tanked forever before he jammed, right? Because he knew that between the two of us, we had him in bad shape. Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, turns out he was flipping, but he tanked forever. So if he just doesn't jam, then you just, you don't get the extra 80, 90, what was it, 90K, 100K total. So
yeah,
everything's crazy.
And even to keep talking about where you actually stand in terms of like how good you are with other players, the thought process to understand when you're going to fold out better, especially in big pre-flop spots, is almost a bit of an advanced concept. It may not seem advanced to maybe like the three of us talking, but that's actually a pretty advanced concept. And especially in a situation like that where you're willing to pull the trigger on the scenario, the situation, your image, it's pretty advanced and it's pretty ballsy. So I think you're like you said, you're better than you think you are.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I mean, coming from you, that does mean a lot.
And before we turn it back over to Mark to let him fast forward on to his final table run and whatnot, I feel like that jamming the little pairs, like I said, so many people jam baby pairs over 4-bet jam baby pairs on me that day. I feel like the meme with the low IQ, middle IQ, high IQ jamming the low pairs. This is perfect because Mark was over here. He was thinking, I'm early position. I'm putting pressure on. I'm specifically targeting the small blind to jam on me. I'm going to do this, right? And then I played this other hand. The second to last hand I played of the night, I had like 11 and a half big blinds, and I opened under the gun. I just min clicked because usually I can tell, I feel like I can navigate decently well even from that. I had ace jack. I could have easily just jammed. Jamming standard. So I min clicked, whatever. The button is short. He jams for about 7.5, 8 bigs. I'm like, okay, well, I'm calling. If one person jams on me, I'm calling. It doesn't matter. So okay, whatever. He jammed. I'm gonna call. This is fine. And then the small blind jams, and he's got me covered by. He probably had 15 big blinds, so he's just like barely got me covered. And this is when there are 22 people left. We're also on a money bubble, like a $900 money bubble, and he just like snap jams. I'm like, okay, 2 people jammed. It's a good thing I didn't jam. I guess I'm dead. Someone has ace king. I'll just fold. The small blind jammed his 15 over my under the gun open off of 11 big blinds, and the other guy's jam with 5s. And I'm just like, what? Like the button had 8s. I'm like, what do you? Okay, I don't talk about hands. I'm like, okay, that's weird. He's like, what? You don't think he plays ace king that way? I'm like,
I mean, it's also LA.
I think he does, but that is actually an argument against what you did. If you, I
We're
don't.
called blasters for a reason.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm like, that's not. Okay, I'm just gonna. I hope whatever. Because, yeah, exactly, right. So that's what I'm saying. It's like, I can't even begin. I don't know where to start refuting that with you, but.
Listen. It's also a situation where I wouldn't do that with another player. I'm doing that with you because I know you're a smart player and you're a thinking player, and you're going to respect the range, and you're going to be thinking about what range he's doing this with. There's a lot of players that I would never take that chance with.
Yeah, and that's why I was saying, like, it's the perfect, like, you should just do it after our interview and for our thumbnails, that low IQ, high IQ play meme. Not that I'm saying their player was a low IQ. I'm just saying his thought process was not your thought process with this. His was, I have a pair. You could do this. He could have ace king. I could be ahead. That's it. Process over. Your thought process had so much going for it even before you put in the min raise. So, all right. We have some questions. Sincerely yours. Would like to know what your read on the final table players were. So, I also would like to hear about your final table. Unless you have some other interesting spots leading up to the final table.
Sure. No. I mean, it was interesting. So, okay. So again, the night before, we shut down for the night. So we're down to 8 players. I had that moment where, again, it was
the 10s.
I win that hand, and yeah, and I'm the overwhelming chip lead at that point. Instead, I come down and I'm at I think it was exactly, I would be going into day two with 17 and a half big blinds. So I have this moment of letting that fuel me, kind of having that thing of like, okay, now I have to win this because I don't want this to be the story. I want the story to be I came back from this. And so like I didn't sleep that much. I woke up. I was just very excited. I woke up and I literally for maybe 2 or 3 hours, all I did was sim spots from 15 to 25 big blinds. That's all
Wow.
I did. Like pretty common
It's
spots.
Kobe in the
Like
gym in the morning right there.
but that was the thought process. It was exactly that. Is do I want to be that guy, or do I want to be the guy that's like, man, it's so fucked up, it's unfair, whatever it was. And it was like, no, I don't want to do that. And so it was just, I didn't like go crazy with it, but I was just like simple spots, like small blind versus big blind, button versus big blind. Like, what are the spots that I can do something? I don't have a lot of room to maneuver. Where are some spots I can do it? And there were some certain concepts that, like, I swear to God, did not occur to me. Like, this is a spot that I should be raising every single time, and I never would be doing that. So that was my mind state. So I look at the table and where I'm at, and there were three stacks that were kind of around where I was, and then five that were significantly higher. So I think we were all kind of around. After that hand the night before, I did chip up a little bit, so I got up to around 2 million. So there was like me at 2 million, Jesse and Q, I think were probably like right under that. So we were like right around the same, and then everyone else was around 6 million or above. So I'm trying to think. First of all, like I would love for these two guys to bust first, because especially if I can double up through one of them, that would be amazing. Like, I am thinking a little bit of ICM. My mentality is I want to win this thing. I don't want to play for ICM, but I also don't want to be completely naive about that.
Nope. It's a
So
good balance to have. Yeah.
yeah. So just kind of look for spots here and there, but don't bleed out, but see if you can find a spot that maybe you wouldn't think otherwise was a spot.
And all the stuff that you just said, there is like this art to tournament poker that probably it took me years to figure out, and I still don't have it absolutely right. But there's almost like this cadence or like this dance that you do with your chips where you're just
100%.
like it's like maintaining where it's almost like I feel like recently where I was able to like build a big stack, and then when nothing good was happening, the stack wouldn't get killed. And it's like a very subtle little things that you do and the little considerations that you make, and you're right. It's like, okay, at this stack depth, where are the spots where I'm going to have an edge where I can like do something without, too much of a risk premium, right? So there's so many little nuances to that. And I don't know if I've actually ever seen anybody teach that kind of stuff, right? It's just almost like you just kind of get it from experience and feel.
Yeah, and well, the other thing that was interesting is one of those stacks that was kind of with me or a little under. It was actually, I think the lowest stack I think was Jesse. It was directly to my left, and so in my mind, it's also like I think I can use this as an advantage when it gets down to late position, because this is the one time where being on the right helps. I can put the pressure on him as opposed to him putting the pressure on me, and kind of maybe steal a few more big blinds with some hands that are, maybe, those 10 jacks or whatever it is. And so that definitely helped. I was actually happy to be on his right in that spot, and it put him in a really tough spot. And he's a good player, but it's tough. Like, I got the lead on jamming if I had a hand that was worth jamming. The other players were all good. The player in seat, I forget his name. Two to my right, he was a really interesting dude. He has
Is it
the what's his
Benjamin
name?
Trung or
Yes, yeah. He had glasses and he had like the little
oh,
turtles.
Benjamin. Benjamin. I
Like
played
his
with him. Yep,
pen.
Benjamin.
Yeah,
Oh, I had a funny
yeah.
hand that I
So,
watched with Ben. I'll tell after your story.
well, I'm going to start with my funny hand with
Yep,
him.
yep.
So when I first moved to his table the night before, this is when we were at two tables. Um, no history with him. We have zero history. He's small blind. I'm big blind. Effective stack, call it 60 big blinds, significant. The hand doesn't even matter other than to say he had air, and this is what the play was. He raises to four big blinds from the small blind. I call. On the flop, he bets, I call. On the turn, he bets, I call. On the river, he jams. There's 4 to a flush, 3 to a straight, mostly low cards that are on my range. Sorry, mid-level cards with like a few high cards. I don't know what I'm doing at this point. This is the craziest hand I've ever played. I don't know what he's trying to represent, and I have no history with him. So I fold, and he flips over 2-3 offsuit.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay, so this is my introduction to him. So now I go into the final table, and I'm very cautious. I want to respect that it's going to be hard to put him on certain ranges here and there. And so I think in the past, what I would have done is I would be like, I've got to target this guy because this is a guy that I can take chips from. This time, I purposely avoided it because I didn't want to put myself in the blender trying to figure out what his range was. Now, obviously, I'm going to go in with good hands. I'm going to try to isolate him with hands that I think play well on certain boards. But if the board gets tricky and he wants to do some stuff, I'm not gonna do that because I've gotten in those situations in the past where I'm trying to put them on a range and I can't, and then I start leveling myself. And this table, there were too many good players that I didn't want to do that with him. I didn't want that to be the hand that took me out of the tournament because I couldn't figure out that he had set. You know Mike, who will play any hand.
Mm-hmm. Yep, Mike Danley.
Yeah, Mike Danley. I love Mike.
Yeah,
I love playing
absolutely.
with Mike. He's awesome, but he puts me in the blender.
Yeah, puts everyone in the blender.
I wanted to be focused. I didn't want to spend the rest of the table second guessing myself 4 hands later, thinking back on something. So it was an obvious spot, yes, but normally I would isolate that. This time I didn't do that with him.
And what you're actually talking about is this concept about like knowing where your edges are. And people say that, but I don't think people really understand what that means. And it's like, if you know where your edges are, you actually actively seek to avoid specific spots. And those specific spots are getting into huge pots with landmines where you don't understand what's happening, right? Like, yes, you might be good enough to wriggle your way out of that, but there's so many other more higher equity spots where you have an edge. So then you purposely avoid that, not out of cowardice, right? But because you know where your edges are.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what you're describing.
Yeah, playing.
And I'll give you a really good example. There was a spot where I think he was on the cutoff and had been opening pretty wide from the cutoff, and I was in the small blind, and I had a small pocket pair. I think I had like maybe 3s or 4s, and the blinds were such that I think a lot of times it would be a good spot for me to raise. He's opening too wide there, and that's a spot where we're deep enough at that point that I think I can push him off a lot of hands. I didn't want to do that because I didn't want to be playing out of position with him on a bloated pot where I don't know where I stand. So for me, it was a call, hope the big blind doesn't squeeze, and then set mine and just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Don't hit it and be fine check folding.
Yeah.
So
Yep. No, a player like that will absolutely. The thing is, when they do something so unpredictable, like Derek said, at a landmine, they're blowing up their own EV or their own equity in the tournament, but they're also blowing exactly.
They'll take it with them.
So when the ICM and the what do they call it? The risk premiums get high, they just press it so hard against you. They're hurting themselves badly, but like if you're in the hand, you're also hurt.
You're going with them. You're going with them.
Your story 100% matches up with the one that I saw. This guy is definitely very strong with his reads. Absolutely. He's got to be like your quintessential field player because the hand I saw.
And he literally told us, he sat down and he said, "I'm very good with my reads." I swear to God.
Oh, really? Okay.
That was
a weird thing
quote
to say.
to the final table. He said, "You should all know I'm very good with my reads." He literally said
that's the way he plays, and man, you can't fault him. He got to 5th place here. The hand I saw, there was a guy who was being a little annoying. So the guy to his left was being a little annoying, yelling at people. This was when there were 3 tables left. People were tanking for like 7 seconds. They weren't even tanking. They were just like looking at their cards. So he's like, "Hurry up, guys. Come on. Let's play. Let's play." And the dude, he's like, "I'm a short stack. I want to play." The guy had like 18, 19 big blinds. I'm sitting there with like 13. I'm like, it's fine. They're not going that slow. And then someone raised him on like a turn and he took like 2 minutes. And the guy was just clearly impatient, antsy, like jamming a lot. He probably jammed about 25% of the hands that got to him. So he's sitting to Benjamin's left. We all fold to them in the blinds. And Benjamin looks down his cards and he limps, and the guy jams for like 13 bigs and snap calls immediately. The guy's like, he takes a minute, thinks it over, does the regular all in, and he beat him into the pot. King 8 suited, Benjamin has. Other guy's 8-5 offsuit. 8-5 offsuit, and Benjamin's like, I was trapping you. I knew it. I knew you were going to make a move. I did this specifically. I played it just like this to trap you. And the other guy, of course, hit a 5 on the river and won. But, like, Benjamin had the read, and he, like, even though he was right, every situation except for this exact one where he's dominated, it's like, bro, you're still 60-40. Like, you're still, like, 58% with that. Like, you're not crushing anybody. Like, you're going to trap with that. But he had the read. He knew he'd be ahead by the slightest bit, and he was going to go all in and take it. And he was like, that's the way he plays, apparently, which is so fun to watch. I mean, honestly, I was pretty upset that the guy hit the 5 on the river, but it's great to see that he came back from that Benjamin came back from that and made it to 5th place. I mean, probably similar story to yours, taking that brutal beat with the aces, right? Because, I mean, he set him up. He did exactly what he wanted. He's like, I'm going to snap call this guy's all in because I think he's full of it, and he just, like, got knocked way down.
And I think Benjamin sounds like a very tough, bit of a high variance player, obviously very read based, but I think, as a service to our listeners, right? Fans of the pod, you don't, like, even if you have a read King 8 suited is not the hand to go with, right? I don't really care what read you have like that. That's, I mean, fine if it's like a little bit on the shorter side, like maybe 8 bigs, like, King high, a suited king is probably like good enough to go, but certainly not something you want to just like limp snap call on purpose. So I'm just putting that out there from a theoretical perspective. It's not the best, right? But
Yeah.
obviously I think Benjamin must be doing a lot of things right.
So that's cool that you were. I mean, he told you guys right off the bat, but it's cool you're able to identify that so quickly from one hand and adjust
Well, he
accordingly.
also, I think for him, I think he said, I think an advantage that I have, me being him, is the psychological part of the game. And like, there was a hand, like he was a needler. He liked to needle. He didn't show the bluffs to be like, wow, like I can't believe like he wanted you to know that he got you, and he tried to use that to his advantage, which is it's a skill in poker. There was one hand in particular where I think it was Jesse, who's to my left. He opened under the gun, and then he called from late position, and Ryan squeezed. Hold on, am I getting this right? Yeah, he called, Ryan squeezed, and Jesse called, and then he jammed. And it was a spot that was a very weird spot. And Ryan snap folded, but then it went back to Jesse, who was the under the gun open. He know what to do, and he folded and he showed pocket jacks. And sorry, what's his name again? The player we're talking about?
Benjamin.
Yeah, and then Benjamin showed pocket tens. And it was funny because, I didn't want to say a word. I to me, I'm just taking all the information and kind of processing. I've got my headphones in. I'm trying to stay in my zone. Rick is like, you can't fold that. Like he never has better than that. He's got tens, he's got jacks, and so Rick is doing that. But then Benjamin, for the rest of the time that Jesse's there, he keeps needling him. He keeps talking about folding pocket jacks in that spot, know. And so for him, I think it was that mental game. It's part of it is reads, but I think a big part of it is, I'm going to get you off your game. I think he understands that he doesn't really know maybe the math the same way. So this is going to be an advantage that I have.
He knows his edge, right? Like he knows his edge.
Yep.
Yeah.
For sure. And
listen, to here's the thing, to Jesse's credit, it was a tough spot because, again, if Benjamin was a player who really understood through game theory,
that's a fold.
He could have, but instead of jamming there, he could also, with a small blind with the stack that Jesse had, he could have queens there. He could have ace king. There's certain hands that he could have, but the way Benjamin was playing, he never has those hands.
No, yeah.
And so it was. Yeah. So Jesse was trying to do the right thing, but it was also a spot that it was like, ugh.
Yeah. And one of those almost like advanced like thinking sort of concepts is just understanding when people are kind of making stuff up as they go. Right, there wasn't a plan for the hand from the very beginning. It's just like they saw something happen and they're like, you know what, this smells like BS to me, so I'm gonna back jam, back raise jam, whatever I have in my hand. And you just gotta know when the players are doing that, and then you have to understand exactly, as Mark said, like that range is not there. It's not there, right? If a tighter player went and back jammed, that would put Jacks in a tough spot, and I might actually fold that, quite a bit. But like, yeah, like a player, if you observe Benjamin, his style of play, like that's almost never a fold.
Man,
Yeah.
if only.
And that's where, honestly, when we talk about like game theory and just kind of playing players, I think in LA, I mean, I don't have experience. I mean, I play in Vegas sometimes, but I don't have experience in a lot of different areas. In LA, most players are going off script, and you have to kind of pick up patterns. And that's where I think it's
Yeah,
good to have that game theory understanding, but really be able to kind of say, okay,
deviate, yeah.
yeah.
Yep. And that's perfect. Someone in the chat was just asking you about that exact hand. I don't know if you saw it or what, but that was a perfect segue.
Oh, about the tens and the jacks.
Yeah. Yep. Someone was
Yeah.
asking about that
I can't.
exact hand.
I don't multitask well, so I don't have the chat
Okay,
open.
that's fair. That's fair. Okay. So one last thing, or I don't know about one last thing, but one other thing, related to kind of all this. You had mentioned it, when I asked you about the final bit, right, about the last hand and the heads up. You talked about how your mindset has really helped your game, right, and how you spend a lot of conscious effort, right, focusing and working on your mindset, making sure that that is in a good space. Do you know you had started telling us a little bit about this post that you're very active on Twitter. Actually, you interacted a lot with Derek in past years on Twitter, and you had this thread here where you jumped on and chatted with Derek about kind of mindset, about the tournament grind, about keeping your head up. Sorry, I just moved it. And I kind of wanted to circle back around to that and let you talk about how how that felt, kind of getting out of that downswing, getting out of that funk, and how you manage to approach mindset these days.
It's not always there. Sometimes it's better than others. It's very fragile, to say the least. Um, it's funny. Okay, actually, I can tie a few of the stories together. So in the mini mega, which is still such a weird name to me, the mini mega, but whatever.
Yeah.
In the mini mega, there was a hand where I went into day two with a huge chip stack, a couple hundred big blinds. I mean, I was in a really, really good position. I go to the first table, and I'm playing well, and everything's great. And I get moved to another table. And in my first hand at that table, there's a player. I don't know his last name, but his name is Deepinder. And I've never played with this guy. And we're 80 big blinds effective, big for this point in day two. And he bluffed me kind of with the most ridiculous spot again. It was, he opened, someone called, I squeezed, he called, and I bet flop, he called, I bet turn, he raises. Oh no, I bet turn, he jams. And I tank and I fold, and he shows 3-4 offsuit, complete air that has nothing to do with the board at all.
This
For
is the
80
deep
big
ender.
blinds.
This is the deep ender
This
I
is,
think you're thinking about. It's not surprising to me. He's very very tricky,
yeah.
aggressive player.
And so I had never played with him. So I literally, and that tilted the fucking hell out of me. And for the rest of that table, it was the only hand I could think of. And in my mind at that point, it's like, I have to isolate this guy. Like, I have to get my hands. And then,
Yeah.
of course, he was the one that eliminated me, because he did another crazy thing where I'm like, you should never have any ace in this spot. And I call him with second pair. And of course, I get knocked out. And I immediately left. And this was the hand I was talking about earlier, where I reached out to Sohail, who's a player that I have an incredible amount of respect
Yeah.
for. And
Yeah,
and we
we all
talked
do.
it through. Yeah, and we talked it through, and he really kind of got my head right in that spot, and just talking about it. And then also, he was very quick to let me know, if it makes you feel any better, he just punted off his stack and he's gone. But but that's not the point. The point was that it was something I didn't want to be mad at him. I wanted to be mad at me for letting it affect my game. So then cut to, we're now in this new tournament, and I'm in that spot with Ben, and Ben does that basically the same thing with not 3-4 offsuit, but 3-2 offsuit. Because why not?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was actually really, really funny because it was something that I had literally just had this conversation with myself about. And it was kind of a reminder of you've got this, Mark. This is what, me talking to myself, this is what we've been going through. This is what we've been discussing. These are the spots that we don't want to let define us. So even though Ben was trying to throw me off my game, I was lucky in that I literally had the same spot and was able to lean on someone that I really respect and help me kind of just take this for what it was. And then cut to when I had that hand later at the final table with the aces and the tens, it was that same thing. It was, I can let this define me or I cannot. So the mental game is not always there. I definitely can lose it very, very quickly, but you play long enough and you realize how important that is, and you have to work at that. So I try to. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. It helps that I honestly, I'm in a very good relationship with a really, really good woman. Tomorrow's actually our first anniversary, and she's very supportive.
Congratulations.
And yeah, and the anniversary gift just got a little bit more expensive, but but it does help that I can vent to her in a way that she keeps me calm, and so instead of taking that frustration and sleeping on it and letting it fester and turning into something else, I can kind of get it out and say, what do I need to do to kind of change the mind state? That helps a lot too.
Nice to have a partner that supports you like that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, I mean, this has been fantastic. Oh, one last thing. We had to push back a couple minutes tonight because of your bowling. Is this a bowling league or was this just a bowling night? What do we got here? Are you a championship bowler? Like what's your average? What are we working with here?
So one of my best friends is him and his brother. They're from Wisconsin, and so Wisconsin it's in the blood. They bowl and they're amazing bowlers, and they got me to join the league a couple of years ago. I think I started out probably bowling 110s, very often bowling under 100. I'm now up to 165, I think.
Wow,
which to me I'm very happy about. It's not where I want to be. I had my first 200 game recently. We today was the last week of this season, and then we start back in a few weeks. It's fun. It's good guys, and it's nice.
Nice.
I mean, listen, I used to play sports. My limbs don't do what they used to do. So I have poker and I have bowling and sometimes golf, and that's it.
We feel you, brother. We're all getting old here. I think when I was doing some research on you, I think you might be just a couple years older than me. Is that right? You're in your 40s or so. Is that right?
I'm 42 years old.
Yeah. Yep. You're right there with
me. My left thumb and my right knee right now are somewhere in the 50s. The rest of me is 42.
Gotcha. Yep. Nope. I'm right there. We're right there with you, buddy. All right. So this has been great. Thank you so much for joining us. The chat's been lighting up. It's too bad you'll have to go back and check it out. Chat's been loving it. Rick's just in the chat seething that it's you and not him up here. I think he's just been chatting. No, I'm just kidding. He's been saying nice stuff.
I just want to say just real quick to you guys. I mean, you guys know I'm a fan of the show. I've been listening to you guys for a long time. I love the world that I'm in, and the fact that you guys shine a spotlight on the community is amazing. So just to be up here and talking to you guys is pretty surreal, and I'm very appreciative of it. I think you guys do a lot of great stuff for our community. So
thank you, buddy. I mean, it's an honor to have you on the show for sure.
Exactly. Thank you so much, man. It's been great getting to know you here. I'm gonna save your number now. I wasn't sure if I was gonna keep it, but I think you all right. So, you guys in the chat, if you have any other questions, go ahead, put them in the chat because I think Mark's going to hang out another couple minutes. But in the meantime, why don't we hit the weekly roundup and see if there's anything worth playing this weekend? I think I know Mark won't be playing with his anniversary and all, but let's see what Derek and I might hit up or might not. All right. So, as we all know, the bike series is still going on. Legends is getting to the end. This week starts the Mega Millions. Not the mini, but the actual Mega Millions. I believe that at this point, there's really nothing going on except for Mega Millions. So the last couple mixed games ended yesterday. They had a Heroes tournament and a Super Bounty, but from here on out, nothing but Mega Millions flights and Survivors at night. as well as some mega satellites for the Mega Millions. So the satellites look like they start on on Friday. So there's a satellite on Friday night and a satellite on Saturday. Do they have one on Sunday? Looks like just Friday and Saturday. And then next week, more Mega Millions flights. So, if you want to play the Mega Millions, you've got plenty of chances, as we all know. Now, there will be a I believe it's a $560 flight. And let me bring up the other one. No, this is the 560. There'll be two 560 flights a day. And there will be what's the other one? 280 flight. So for the 280 flight, 6% advance, 12% cash, but 6% advance. Once again, Mega Millions is a very complicated quantum. You can play the cheapest one. You can cash and not bag. You can play the more expensive one where 12% get through, and there are double bag bonuses, which are $3K each.
That's a new one. That's a new thing. Like that click stop at 9%. That's a new thing, right?
I don't think so. No, the smaller flight, they only really do it for the mega because you only bag at 6% in the cheaper flight. So they just want to make sure people get some money back at these other values. The regular bagging, so just for bagging up the first time, you get $500. The double bag bonus is $3,000 total, and they are capping it at 3 double bags. So those are kind of all the details you need for the day ones.
So much complexity.
Yep. So now,
like this is obviously the marquee event. At this point, I'm pretty sure still are only $2 million guarantees. So I think that's the thing to play.
Yep.
Despite the reservations.
And you know what? One other thing that I want to bring up is a reason that the Classic may have overlaid. Another one is that it's simply not the marquee event of the series, right?
Yeah.
Every other series in LA, the 1K is pretty much the big event of the series. It's the one that's the culmination of the series. This was, placed where it was before the Mega Millions with a smaller guarantee. It's really a side event, so there's really just not as much excitement for it, or it's harder to because it's not, it's not the big one. So let's go on over Hollywood Park. So this weekend, Hollywood Park has its bigger events. So I will actually be going to Hollywood Park to play this weekend, especially on Saturday. So they are doing on Friday a 25K guarantee bounty tournament, and on Saturday they're doing a 50K Saturday special. I'll probably be late regging that because they give you 40K in chips, and I believe at the end of reg, which is at it starts at 10 a.m. Another reason I won't be there right away. But at the end of reg, which is at 2:30 or something, you still have 40 big blinds. And then on Sunday they have the regular 10K guarantee bankroll builder. So that is probably where you'll find me on Saturday.
Nice.
Other places around town, they don't have anything in particular happening this weekend. Lucky Lady has their regular tournaments, their regular schedule, 10K guarantees on the weekend. Hollywood Park and Commerce, also their normal schedule of dailies. So, the Gardens is always a good choice, but nothing particularly special this weekend. So Saturday, I recommend Hollywood Park. Derek, if you want to play this weekend, you want to keep from getting rusty, that's where I recommend. And other than that, you can go fire a flight in the Mega Millions or not. The one thing I do want to say is that starting the week, Labor Day weekend, Labor Day weekend is when the Mega Millions Day 2s happen, which I'm super excited about. I hate that they're wasting this holiday Monday on another day 2, right?
Right.
Like that
It was a big opportunity to land that day 3 and just have every single working reg come out.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, that's
Such a
just
waste.
it's such a waste.
Yeah.
It's a big reason I'm less excited for it. I mean,
And especially when you had 1 billion flights to go
Yeah,
to there,
it's
did
like
you
to
really need that?
exactly. Do we really need to milk that extra day? That's just come on, guys. I don't know. But that's what they're doing. The second, which Monday, Labor Day, that's going to be another day 2. However, that same weekend, the Commerce will be starting the Hold'em series. Now, we can't tell you what that event's going to be that weekend. I hope it's going to be a nice, mid-level buy-in multi-day event, like another 40-40 type of thing, like another big 40 type of tournament. But they don't have their schedule out. They will be having their series starting August 30th to September 22nd. So if that first weekend isn't like somewhere in the $250 to $400 multi-day event that ends on Monday, I don't know what they're doing. That would be a huge miss in my mind, because I don't see that competing with the Mega Millions because by that time that weekend comes around, the buy-in for the Mega Millions is almost $4,000. So I think a $400 buy-in tournament's going to be totally not competing. Only thing that you'll be competing with are all the people that already bagged over there. So, you know, that's what's going on there. We don't know what the event is, but it will be happening. So I only say that because that, that's another reason I'm not super excited to fire tons of day ones into the Mega Millions, because aside from the scheduling being not great, there will be a alternative. We're not sure what it is yet, but there will be one. So we'll see. So what do you think, Mark? Was I right? You're not playing this weekend. Everything's too small. You got to take the you got a big anniversary plans going up to Tahoe.
You're completely wrong. I'm a junkie. I cannot wait to get back to the play. I've got we've got big plans Wednesday and Thursday night, and I will be firing my first bullet on Friday.
Okay,
Nice.
He's getting in that Mega Millions for the day. What, bro? You're too rich to play day ones. Just take the time off.
Can I tell you something that's actually funny? When I won the mini mega back in spring or whatever it was, which is like by far my biggest score, like not even like close, like it was whatever.
Mark only has 17 results in his Hendon, by the way, guys. 17. He has.
Literally, the next day I played $100 buy-in at Hollywood Park.
That's the way to go, man.
I wanted to be back out there, and I like it too much.
I'm with you, man. You, me, and Bill Klein. This is the way.
Yeah, it's not only for the love of the game, but when you get a big score, also for listeners of the pod, don't just go shooting at all the high rollers, because you're gonna lose that super fast, right? I mean, take shot take here and there, especially within the same tax year, for the write-off type of purposes, but generally, don't just go blasting up like 2 or 3 levels above you.
Absolutely. All right, well, that is all we have for you this week, guys. Another big props to Mark for coming on the show at such short notice. It's been great. It was super fun talking to you. Sincerely yours in the chat says the picture looks like a lady. Anyway, sincerely yours, loves these kind of pods. Guys, if you're watching and you came from Mark and you're not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button, hit the like, please. We love it. It helps us out a lot. Next week, guys, is our 1-year show. We will have been doing this for 1 whole year.
Unbelievable.
We're too busy to do anything real special, but we'll try. So please tune in. It's gonna be fun. 1 year coming up. So we'll figure something good to do. We'll figure out something good. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. That's all we got for you this week.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you so much, Mark.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks everyone in the chat.
Thank you, guys.
And we will see the rest of you at the tables, guys.
See you at the tables.